Okay, as you guys can see, I'm still here. So we're doing part 2. It's a two-parter, right?
It's a two-parter.
We already did part 1, so
Yes.
I guess it makes it part. Yeah,
5.
close enough. I mean, it looks like a 2 upside down anyway, so close enough. All right, so Josh's going to continue the questions. If I remember correctly, the last question from the last video. Let's see if you guys are paying attention.
What are your thoughts on VIP packs?
I don't have any more thoughts. I already disposed of them in the last video, so check it out. So Josh will continue with the next question that we haven't answered yet.
Okay. Would you recommend getting a pre-con deck if you're an established player? And what if you're getting into a new format?
To be honest with you, I think a lot of the, and I probably should be saying this as a person who sells this stuff, a lot of the starter decks are kind of meh in terms of quality, in terms of playability, and things of that nature. There's a level of collectability. If you're trying to complete the entire set, you're going to need some of the cards from the starter decks to do that. Now, if you want to use it as a baseline, then tune it out. Then you could bring it to an F&M and have a reasonably good time. But I've seen a lot of people try to take a deck right out of the box, bring it to an event, and they get completely waffle stomped. Now, in terms of getting into new formats, I think probably the best pre-con set, if you're trying to get into a new format, is Commander. I think a lot of the Commander products have been, I think overall, pretty well balanced. I mean, there's been, all of them have a specific theme you're trying to roll with. And you can replace a handful of cards and make it a reasonably competitive and, I won't say competitive, but a reasonably good deck where you can play some casual Magic, because Commander's designed to be casual anyways. I think it's kind of easier to tune that out versus a standard deck if you're trying to get like a Planeswalker deck or something like that. So, I mean, not completely dismissing it, try to get into it, you just want some baseline to get started. It's not a bad place to start, but as an established player, I would probably shy away from them unless you're trying to collect the whole set.
In your opinion, what is the worst Magic set?
It's funny because I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I got out of Magic during the Kamigawa block, so honestly, the Japanese style just didn't really suit me, and it's also because, like I said, it's kind of the time where I was trying to find myself as a person. So I kind of feel a little bit biased towards that, really for no valid reason. Worst set, probably low-hanging fruit, Born of the Gods. When the estimated value is like a third of the original asking price for a box several years later, that's pretty brutal. So I'd probably say that one. Oath of the Gatewatch, I think, was very underwhelming. But recent memory, I'd say probably Oath or Born of the Gods.
What are your general thoughts on bannings? Also, as a follow-up, considering you're mostly an EDH player, what cards would you like to see banned in Commander?
General thoughts on bannings, I understand why they're there. You don't want to see just a handful of cards or 1 or 2 decks just completely blow up a meta. You kind of want diversity in the formats. What keeps the standard alive and well is having different options, different decks and different cards that you can use. And when you see every single person you play against have the exact same deck or the same combination of a few different cards, it is kind of tiresome, and a lot of people leave the game for extended periods of time because of that. So I really don't have a problem with bannings. My problem with bannings is the reason why they have to exist. It comes down to, if you're trying to design a set that you want to integrate into the current meta, you should make cards that work. You should make cards that play well with others. You should make product that can fit into what you already have pre-existing. It's not going to completely destroy something. Because when you have mass bannings, you have people spending top dollar for cards that are very good and have to be ordered down or banned completely. You get a lot of people who walk away from the game at that point because they invest a lot of money, card gets banned, card drops exponentially in value, so they're going to feel like they waste a lot of money because R&D kind of dropped the ball to begin with. So I would say I understand the functionality of bannings. I just don't understand why they have to happen. Now, for the more fun question, or part of the question, I should say, as Commander player, I don't think there's really anything out of the like out of the ordinary. I think a lot of people would probably agree with this. Soul Ring. I know it's in every Commander pre-con, and it's kind of like a must-add as soon as you get done saying this is my Commander. The next card you pick is Soul Ring. It just sucks when you have like one person who gets it, and then you have 3 people sitting at the table saying, "Well, I'm functionally 2 turns behind that one person." So that person, I don't say always wins, but wins often enough that it kind of seems like a pretty unfair advantage, even though everyone technically has the same advantage, but just you won because of luck, not because you're better than anybody else, or piloted the deck any better. So I can make a case for that. Do I want to see it banned? No, but I can make a case for it. Cyclonic Rift, I've kind of had a problem with for a while because I've only seen it used 2 different times. The first instance I'm going to reference, I have no problem with. I'm going to wipe the board so I can get through and win the game on this turn or the next turn. That's perfectly fine. That's what it's supposed to do. There's so many times where the player who's about to cast it is dead in the water, has no chance of coming back whatsoever. There's 3 people sitting around like 30 or 40 life. They're sitting there with, half of a Cheeto and, 2 life and hang on by a thread, but they have just enough mana to overload Cyclonic Rift and start the game over again and drag the game out for 2 more hours. I think it's stupid, and you can't really tell people when to or when not to play cards. So I would say just get rid of it. One off the beaten path, because those 2 get brought up all the time in forums like Reddit, and Twitter and whatnot. One's kind of off beaten path for me is Bolas of Citadel. I love the card. I played in every black deck I had, but if it was banned, I'd be completely okay with it. Black does a very good job of getting life, so if you can subvert having to pay mana costs and just play your entire deck, I think that's a little bit degenerate, and 6 mana is not that hard to get to in Commander, so you can get to it pretty quickly, especially in black since there's a lot of ramp. So I can make a case for that one. I like it personally for myself, but if it got banned, I would have 0 issue with that.
What are your thoughts on deck builders toolkits?
So is that a general question? Is that like if you're getting into the game or if you're like an established player?
It's just a general question.
Okay. Well, if you're understanding it's a general question, as an experience for experienced players, I wouldn't recommend them. I mean, they're cool things to get for birthday or Christmas presents or holiday presents, whatever, and they're perfectly fine for that. They also have a nice organizational system where they have the box and they have some basic lands to get you started. But again, it goes to the next part for the casual consumer who's just getting into the game, or a person who sold their collection or whatever and they want to get back into it. It's a very good starting jumping on point. And it kind of forces you to, instead of to pick up a pre-con and just having a deck already built for you, you actually have all the pieces ready to go for you that you can actually theoretically build your own deck. So for a new person jumping on, I think it's a good tool. For an experienced player, I don't know if it's the best $20 you could spend.
What are your thoughts on foiling out a deck?
If you have the money to do it, I don't see an issue with it. I know some people comment that it's maybe a little pretentious, that you're showing off and blinging it out. What's the point? Who cares? If they want to spend their money on it, let them do it. If you've been fortunate enough to open foil cards, then awesome, good for you. I have no problem with people doing what they want to with their decks. At the end of the day, I'm very much a person that says if you can do it, then do it. I don't have a problem with it. I can understand the thinking of it being pretentious, whatever, but you can't judge a person for choosing to do with their money what they want to do.
Okay. We are now on the last chunk of questions.
Okay.
These are store-related questions.
Okay, I'll do the best I can.
So, first one. If everyone at the store was competing in a taco eating contest, who would win and how many would they devour?
Jeez. I kind of wish there was more like detail. Like, it's going to be like a 5-minute competition, or how many tacos you can eat in 30 minutes or over a weekend. I mean, I think there's like some parameters involved. I think would change the answer. I think if it's like over, say, a course of like an hour, I think our Saturday guy Zach and I probably have a very good chance because we can pace ourselves. We both enjoy food, obviously. So I think that he and I would have a good chance of competing with that. Now, if it's like a shorter amount of time, like 5-10 minutes, I 100% think Steve would win. He's a very, very fast eater. How many tacos any one of us would eat, I think it depends on the format of the fictitious taco contest. But yeah, I mean, Steve is a very, very fast eater. I mean, even when we're casually hanging out, having dinner together, it seems like it's a competition. And he always wins, so.
As a former player and addict of Magic, what would your response be if someone bought a really expensive card and immediately destroyed it? Would you be heartbroken?
I don't see why I would. I mean, like I said a couple questions back, if you have the money to do something and that's what you want to do, then I don't care. I really don't. And like, don't get me wrong, I've always enjoyed Magic. I never call myself like an addict of it. I've actually seen people on Twitter who say, like, "Oh, I have the strength to break away from it because I was addicted." I get the joke of it being cardboard crack. I just never personally fell into that. Josh, give me a board and pack quick. I need one. But no, I frankly don't care if people do with their money. I mean, as a collector or a player, like if that was my mindset, and this was 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would probably be upset because I was like, oh, I could have used that. Or maybe that's probably more from the player standpoint. From the collector standpoint, is like, okay, well, if I have a copy of the same card, then it went up in value because there's one less in the world to be had. From a store perspective, frankly, I have a different outcome that I want for everything versus one as a player. As a store owner, the only thing I functionally care about is making money. So if somebody comes in and spends $100 on a $100 card, and they play with it, then I'm fine because I got the $100 out of it that I wanted making that transaction. If somebody bought a $100 card, went outside and lit on fire, or they ripped it in half in front of me and laughed maniacally, whatever they want to do with it, I don't care because I still got the same outcome of getting $100 for the card. Or they came in, destroyed it, and I didn't get paid for it, then I'll be upset. But otherwise, again, it's your money. If you want to waste it on doing something stupid, then that's up to you.
Can you briefly explain why you can no longer get comic books from your store?
Well, the super brief answer is check the link in the description where I talk about that. For the record, I didn't actually know that the link was going to be in the description, so Josh, make sure the link is in the description.
Adding it to my notes.
Good. I don't see rank it down. Whatever. He has a good memory. No, very, very quickly, if you want to sit through that video, but you instead want to sit through this video, that's going to be about the same amount of time. Frankly, we wanted to go in a different direction. We just didn't really see the tangible benefit of us continuing to do comic books. At the time of us starting the business, it actually lined up perfectly with Rebirth starting out for DC, so it was a very good jumping on point. So I was able to grab new customers for that. Then when interest died off in that run, and any other issues that people may have had with books in general, or they want to go digital, whatever the case may be, we saw the return on investment completely dwindle. We did have very good sales throughout the year for them, but it took up way too much space, and we could just reallocate the same amount of funds and get a better return on the investment. On the average week, we used to spend anywhere between $300 to $500 on comic books, and we're making between $400 and $600 every week on books, which is fine when you're making $100, but that doesn't really help pay for utilities, overhead, the lights, paying your taxes if you owe. So it just didn't make it worth it. So if we're going to have that money allocated every week to pay for something, we might as well just add to the allocated money we had set aside for Magic or supplies or Final Fantasy, Pokemon, anything else that was selling in the store exponentially faster. So we enjoyed selling books. All of us here at some point was a hardcore reader. A reader of comic books. I think we all can still read. I think. I mean, we still question Jaden, but no, no, it's a shame because we all were fans of it. So getting rid of it was a tough decision. but we thought it was what's best for business, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Is sometimes to be in business, you have to make the terrible, uncomfortable, difficult choices you don't want to make. Like, I really don't want to unplug that Coke machine, but I think it's best for business and the quality of the video, so I'm going to do that. Okay. You shut up. Okay. There we go. Starbucks is better anyways. Not a sponsor. Yep. And there's a phone ringing. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I guess we'll keep going to questions.
Here's your favorite question, the one that sparked the whole AMA.
Okay.
How has COVID impacted the store?
Well, we have to wear a mask now. We have to have plexiglass out by the counter, so no one's breathing their germs on us. Which I'm actually kind of okay with us having that full time. I just don't want people spitting my face if we can avoid it. Not that happens. Anyway, but no, from business perspective, weirdly enough, it actually kind of helped. This is going to sound really strange. I know these are very difficult times. I forget the exact number, but I think it's like what 25-ish% of small businesses are shut down for good now. So I mean, it's obviously been a terrible crisis, and it's horribly impacted millions of people. So I can understand how it's difficult. Now, the reason why it actually worked okay for us, we got through it. Steve and I also have second jobs. So if rent was due and the store didn't have the extra money, not the extra money, but didn't have the money that was required, we were able to float some money and help out. Both our jobs also provided a little bit of relief as well to the associates, so it made it a lot easier on us to be able to provide for the store because we were both doing pretty well financially. But I mean, obviously the virus shut down events. That's kind of been an off and on thing, but it seems like the WPN just effectively shut down sanctioned events until I think the new Zendikar set coming out. That's where you've got a lot of our business is foot traffic coming in, people spending a lot of time in the store, so they more have to spend more money because they see more things, which is great. But obviously when we're shut down for several months, it allows opportunity to evaluate where we were standing. So we made some tough decisions. We decided to get rid of the books. We decided to rebrand, renovate the store, and take advantage of the free time to kind of get to the way we wanted to go. Also allows more opportunity to become more organized in the way we keep track of our sales and our expenses. So it kind of allows us to reevaluate a lot of things. I think the last part too is we also got more involved in online. We were doing a little bit of TCG, with stuff we noticed we weren't selling in store, but we were able to list, I think about 15 to 20 times more than we originally were posting on TCG. So functionally us getting into the 21st century, I think, was a huge help for us. So again, it's an unfortunate thing that it happened, but it was kind of a blessing for us in particular.
It's funny you brought up the WPN events. What are your thoughts on WotC shutting down WPN events?
Well, these are uncertain times, so you have to take some drastic measures. I don't necessarily agree with their stance on wiping it out across the board. But I understand why they did. The problem that I personally have with it is to say right now Florida's not, I would say doing as well. I mean, I don't really know if they're doing well or they're doing poorly, but they have a lot more cases. So they have a lot more cases than just say Colorado. They open up at the same time. So Florida has more cases and more positive tests and everything else. So why should someone in Colorado be punished to not be able to play Magic at the WPN level just because Florida can't get their crap together, or Texas can't get their stuff together, California? So why should everyone else have to suffer because there are some states that just aren't doing as well? But the reason why I agree with it is you do get credit for playing in WPN events. So by playing Friday Night Magic and doing well, you kind of get more recognition and get invited to PTQs and things of that nature. So they're basically saying, well, we're going to just kind of freeze it so no one gets an unfair advantage because they happen to live in a state that has less cases than somebody else. So I can understand their position. I just don't agree with it because I don't think there's that many people going to F&Ms for the sake of going to a PTQ. I don't think the numbers indicate that that's a thing that people are too concerned about. I can speak for all of our players, but they're all good players, but none of them are going to the Pro Tour. So I think it's going to be true for a vast majority of WPN stores. So I just feel like it's kind of like a discipline the many for the sins of the few.
Why don't you have better inventory for singles?
No, I wonder, did it mean inventory management or just having more inventory in stock?
It just says better inventory, so I'm thinking just inventory in stock.
I think it comes down to is what do you expect? What as a consumer, what do you expect when you walk into a store? Do you expect them to have every single card that's ever been printed? Do you expect everything that's in standard? Do you expect just the specific cards you want? I think it really comes down to expectations. To answer why we don't, I think it's actually pretty simple, but I'm trying to think of the easiest way to say it, is it costs a lot of money to crack boxes. Unfortunately, our allocation is limited because of our WPN status. Obviously, at this point, we can't improve our WPN status because we've been shut down for several months. So we're still basing it on our numbers that were reported from back in February. So there's no way of us improving our standing. So to my extension, we can't improve the inventory that can come in for sealed product. We have so many people who pre-order several cases or even individual boxes that adds up that we only have functionally probably about 10 to 12 boxes available at release. So we have to account for people walking in and wanting to buy a box day one. We have to account for people wanting to come in and draft. So we only get to crack a limited amount of boxes upon release. The one other positive from COVID is because people were afraid of coming out of their house or whatever, we still got the same allocation for pre-release kits. So we can supplement our inventory by opening more pre-release kits and things like that. Every time we order a box, it costs between $75 and $80 to get a box in. When you have a set like a Korea, where the estimated value at one point dropped down to $60, you would functionally lose $15 to $20 by opening that box just for the sake of a customer getting $2 or $3 singles. That's not a big enough benefit for me to do that from a business standpoint. So I think kind of in a way subvert expectations, and a lot of times too when a set kind of starts, let's say, getting stale or a new set comes out and the previous set is still there, the hot singles from that set, it's going to be a harder time trying to get those boxes in. So we're going to be opening less boxes. So we kind of have to rely on people trading things in and us offering deals and incentives to trade stuff in. Which makes it harder to maintain inventory a lot of times, because if you want the card, then so is the person that we're trying to get it off of. And unfortunately, we can't control what we open in terms of what is inside the packs that we open. So again, I think it just kind of subvert expectations, and I understand that unfortunately we don't have full control over it. We're not a big enough store where we have a lot of liquid capital just to throw at a new set to do a mass box opening, and a lot of times we're stuck with a whole bunch of commons on commons that don't go anywhere. We're stuck with a whole bunch of bulk rares that will never go in your cell, that'll eventually end up in the 50-cent bin, that may or may not sell to the casual commander player looking to build a deck. So for every 10 packs we open, we might have 3 or 4 playable cards that end up in the case.
Why don't you film more customer transactions and trade-ins for the channel?
Sometimes I don't think about it. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not concerned about the channel. My first primary concern is the customer in front of me. It seems like we kind of get customers in waves where maybe kind of quiet for like 30 minutes or so, and then all of a sudden you have 3 or 4 people, and then getting them to agree to be on camera and all that stuff is kind of difficult, and sometimes it skips my mind because, again, I'm focusing on getting the transaction taken care of and the customer taken care of best I can. Now, Brandon was a very specific situation because he had a massive collection that he wanted me to take my time and sort through without the distraction of other customers coming in. So we scheduled a time that worked best for us. We sat down and we audited the collection, and we were able to look through some stuff and take it a little bit more slowly, and I was able to actually film that one. A lot of the trade-ins too happen right before an event. I'd say about 65 to 70% of our trade-ins happen either right before or after an event happens. At which point we have people, before the event trying to register themselves, make sure they get credit, and when the event's over, people want to be paid out for their winnings. So that really doesn't afford us an opportunity to film. So if it's a bigger collection, I know about it going into it, I'll schedule a time, and while we're negotiating when and where, well, the where is usually established, but when we're establishing when and what they're trying to get out of the transaction, I will throw in there. We can throw it out, we can put it on camera. So, I would say they're staged, but they're usually planned ahead.
Why did you start the business?
At the time, me starting the business was about the comic books. I was a fan of Magic the Gathering. I enjoyed other nerdy things. And Steve was very much a Magic player and a fan of the other nerdy things, like the tabletop gaming and Final Fantasy, Pokemon, things like that. So, at the time, it was a passion of mine. I was very passionate about comic books. I was also passionate about Magic. At the time of me coming up with the business plan rather, I was working at another comic shop. So I was picking his brain on how to do things. I decided to start the business far enough away that I wasn't competing with him directly. But it was a kind of combination of both of our hobbies and being passionate about something and caring about what you do, combined with the fact that I'd gone to school for business, law, and accounting. So I wanted to, do something with my degree. I had saved up a good bit of money. Steve had saved up some money, and we were talking about it one day. And next thing you know, we, over time, came up with more and more ideas, had more and more plans, had more and more things set in stone and solidified. And we started going through the IRS. We started applying for the fictitious name and setting up our bank account and all that jazz. It was becoming very much, this is a goal now. It's not just a dream or an idea. This is something we can actually do. So I think that for anyone who wants to start a business, you have to be passionate about what you sell or what your service you're providing. I mean, yeah, there's days where I dread coming in. That's because I work another job and I just want to sleep sometimes. But no, I'm still very much passionate about what I do. And obviously Steve's very passionate about what he does, and so we want to bring that passion and spread that to other people, and we both have the acumen necessary to effectively run a business. We've been doing it for over 5 years now, and the place hasn't burned down yet, so I think it's positive.
This one kind of ties in with the last one, which
Sure.
we were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm looking to start a business. Any advice?
Don't. I'm sorry. I mean, right now I'd say don't, because the whole COVID thing. I mean, there's something I forgot to mention in how did COVID impact us. I mean, it took a huge toll on small businesses. Yeah, we've got there's different grants and opportunities that were afforded to business owners, but I mean, the kind of on again, off again thing of being open and foot traffic and everything else really inhibited what we wanted to do, and having to spend money on plexiglass and PPE and all that stuff was also another added cost. And while we're not getting the typical revenue we were expecting, and they, landlords don't say, "Oh, we're going to turn rent off," because they have to pay their bills too. So if the question is, do I want to start a business right now, or what I do? I'd say don't. But once the world goes back to normal, assuming that it ever does at this rate, I would make sure you surround yourself with the smartest people you can. Make sure you have a very good accountant who knows what they're doing. If you decide to go in business with a partner, make sure you guys have completely clear, open lines of communication. I mean, you have to kind of look at it like a marriage. I mean, if you marry a person that you're just friends with and you can't have the uncomfortable conversations, because there are going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations. Steve and I have to talk about money. Money is one of the things you don't like to talk about. Anyone likes to talk about. So if you can't talk to your spouse about money, then it's gonna fail. If you can't talk to your business partner about money, then you're going to fail. So I think you have to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. You also have to be able to have a good friendship with the person you're business with, but also be able to establish a line of, okay, friends over here, partner over here, we have to take things very seriously and have again very serious dialogue in regards to the business, because you guys ultimately want the same goal. You want to succeed. You want to make money. You want to be able to establish a business that's successful. You want to be able to do what you love. If you didn't love what you're doing, then you wouldn't open the business. I would also do as much market research as you possibly can. You want, if you're doing like a retail or a restaurant, you have to make sure that you're not posting up right next door to a person who does the same thing as you and has been established and might be doing it better. Even if they aren't doing it better, you posting up next to a place that people already see as their favorite place is kind of a dumb idea. So you have to do a very very blanketed thing where you look at the geographical location of where you're looking to set up camp and make sure that no one else is doing what you're doing. And when you come up with numbers, you have to think, okay, how much can I spend on rent? How much can I spend on marketing? How much do I have to spend on utilities? How much the startup costs for getting a POS system and getting grid wall? And assuming that you're doing retail, like how much is it going to cost to get all of those materials? And for accounting purposes, I mean, they typically depreciate in value 50% as soon as you hang them up on the wall, or as soon as the computer is plugged in, you lose 50% value. So, and I think too many people have the mentality when they're starting a business of looking at like the different investment, and they have the very novice approach of how much do I have to gain, when they need to understand you have to have the mentality of how much can I stand to lose. If you invest to say $100,000, could you reasonably be okay with losing $100,000? So you want to protect your startup asset as much as you possibly can and try to profit to an extent where you can pay off that debt that you've accrued for yourself. So if you can't stand to lose the money you want to put down, then you shouldn't be putting the money down. So you have to think of projections. I did mine for the first 6 to 12 months. It worked to an extent, but there's still times where I found myself in a jam where I had to borrow money. Steve and I had to pull from our personal savings. I was working including here, I was working 3 jobs. Steve was working a few jobs himself. So make sure that all your financial horses are lined up, ducks are in a row, or you have everything taken care of. And best advice is if you project that you're going to spend hypothetically $50,000 within the first 6 months, I would quadruple that, because you have to account for contingencies. You have to account for things coming up that you didn't anticipate. So I think that's a key thing that you can learn from us. Make sure your credit score is as clean as possible. Make sure it's as high as possible. Having startup capital is very good, but just as importantly, you want to have liquid capital. Because there's times where vendors going to call you up or email you and say, hey, there's a great opportunity where we're selling something at 50% off, and you don't want to miss out on those opportunities. So if you're strapped for cash and you're constantly scribbling the bottom of the barrel, then you're going to be treading water at best. So again, I would say startup capital is very important. Liquid capital is important, and surrounding yourself with the right people is important. If you guys want me to do like a workshop video on what you need to do step by step, I'll do that. But I think for the sake of the question and for the sake of time, I'm very comfortable with that answer for now. And if anyone wants more, precise information that's specific to you, feel free to DM me on Twitter at Nerdscardsandcomics, and I can look over it and answer questions.
Okay, we have 2 questions left.
Oh, thank God, because I'm almost out of breath after that last one.
Where do you acquire merchandise?
Well, if you're going to watch these videos, you know that we get most of it from the bottom of the dumpsters. I mean, I think that's actually what he called some of them. We went dumpster diving. That's actually a terrible Steve impersonation. I need to drop my voice down about 9.5 octaves. His voice is a lot more masculine than mine, I guess. As personally, you go through a number of different vendors. I mean, specializing in now card games. I mean, when we were doing comics, we went through Diamond because at the time that was the one distributor. They've since branched off into DC, having their own distribution company. So we got out at the right time. But for cards, I mean, we don't go in alphabetical order, so you can't figure out which one to go with. There's ACD, Alliance, GTS, and Southern Hobby, or the four that we go through. Now there is one that we go through primarily, where we look at them first every single time and say, okay, this is stuff we need for the week, or we have a pre-release coming up or a new set coming out. So we go to them first, say, this is something we needed this, we want to get this, this, and this. And they know that they're our primary source. So if they're, God forbid, out of something, because there's been times where we run into that because there's a hot in-demand product that they sold out of for whatever reason, because, well, it's a hot in-demand product, that we call up another one of the distributors and say, hey guys, just a heads up, we know we don't talk to you often, but we are wondering if you have blank, and hopefully they say yes. And I guess it kind of goes into the business thing. I didn't even think about this until just now because you brought up the vendors. Have as many vendors as you can, but also, you know, pick your favorite. Have a main source you go to, and tell them from the beginning, you are the main guy. You're it. Like, you're our go-to. We're going to go through you before anybody else. So that way they know that they can just bombard your inbox with different deals and specials and discounts, things like that, which is awesome. But also be sure to be as honest and transparent with the other vendors, or distributors, because they need to know, are they the primary guys? They have to know that. So that way they can adjust accordingly. So their sales reps can know, do I bombard them with emails? Well, if I'm getting two with the same email, basically, if I'm getting one from one company, one from the other, saying, hey guys, be sure to pre-order the new hot pink dragon shield sleeves or whatever, well, I'm not going to go through distributor A, B, because A is already our guy. So I don't need to see the same email twice. So just be sure to tell your sales reps, that's what they're there for. Hey, listen, you're our second in line. If we need you, we'll call you. Hey, you're our third in line. If we need you, we'll call you. So it gives you flexibility, and it also creates a relationship where it's honest, transparent, and they know exactly where they stand. And if they do have a mind-blowing deal at the secondary distributors, then obviously take advantage of it. That's, again, what they're there for. There was a situation where we had to ask for a new rep because he just didn't understand where he stood. That's part of the job. So we had to request a new rep because we were just getting bombarded. We hadn't gone through that distributor at that point for about 4 or 5 months. And be sure to stay active so they don't deactivate your account for inactivity. But we'd gone several months without talking to them or needing them because our primary distributor had already done an amazing job. But they still insisted on sending us junk mail, basically. And a lot of stuff was stuff that we didn't even do as a company. We can't sell Warhammer in our area because we're too close to a store that specializes in just Warhammer. So them sending us email after email saying, hey, Warhammer miniatures are in stock. Look, we can't care. It's not that we don't care, but we can't care because we can't carry it. So it's just, so we spoke to the rep a few times directly. He obviously didn't get the message. So we talked to his manager and they reassigned reps. It happens all the time, and it's okay. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's one that you have to have if you feel like you're almost in a way being harassed. So just make sure you do your due diligence, look into every company that you want to go through, and make sure you, again, establish a solid relationship, and I think it will work itself out. In terms of other merchandise, we do like a lot of our patrons, a lot of them are artsy and craftsy, so sometimes they bring in things that they usually sell on Etsy, so they sell stuff in store. For a long time, our one friend Chelsea was making it's crochet, right? Crochet Pokeballs, and she was selling in a store where we get a cut of the money, she gets the rest of the money because obviously she did the work, and it was a very cool thing. So we try to support local people as well if what they do helps our business, and we can help them grow theirs as well. And I talked about the inventory for Magic. A lot of the singles, I'd say part of it is from people trading them in and looking to sell stuff.
All right, last question. Why do you open Josh's stuff?
I feel like this is a question that you wrote.
Oh, so it's on the paper.
But yeah, we also typed out the question, so I feel like you wrote the question and asked the question yourself.
I'm just reading what's on the paper.
Okay. Why do I open Josh's stuff? The real answer is the answer that nobody wants to hear. Is I was under the impression that he didn't care. I thought, I kind of took advantage of the fact that he and I are friends for a long time, that he just, by extension, by attrition, would not care that I opened his stuff because, it's Josh, right? That's how my mentality going in. But no, so the Ikoria Booster Bundle, or a Fat Pack, or whatever they're calling them these days, I had misunderstood when Josh and I had a conversation, where Josh had said in that conversation, yeah, like if I have stuff that I purchase, I don't mind opening it with you, or something along those lines. And I took it as open my stuff, selective hearing. So I opened the bundle. Bob was here at the time, and as you guys heard in the video, does Josh know about this? And I was like, yeah, of course he does. I mean, and I legitimately thought that he wanted us to open the box. So again, I kind of played it off like, oh yeah, he's going to be super annoyed, so I got to do it quick, whatever. I just had no thoughts that he was going to care. Come find out he did. So we had a conversation off camera because he wasn't going to interrupt it and ruin a perfectly good video. So we talked about it afterwards, and he said, okay, we need to establish some boundaries. You can't be opening my stuff without permission. And I was like, I thought I had your permission. He goes, no, you really didn't. So please stop opening my crap. So we kind of played it off in Core 21. He was actually a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff is with Core 21. He kind of played it off that, oh, you're doing this again type thing. He knew the whole time that I was going to do it. And actually had gotten non-written permission to do it. So now we're kind of escalating to the point where, like, okay, the first time was a stupid accident. Second time we're going to play it off as a joke. And then I think the third time we had opened one of your things, it was Jumpstart. And Josh has become more comfortable. You hear him occasionally make a comment in the videos. He's now making more comments in the videos, which I appreciate because I don't like talking to myself. But he progressed to the point where he actually wanted to open some of his stuff on camera with me, which I thought was very cool. And I'm hoping to do more things like that in the future. We'll probably be opening more of Josh's stuff, and he's going to be fully aware of it because permission and whatever. So I think it's actually my third or fourth coffee in this video. I think there's a different flavor every time. You guys, I want to say thank you for watching part 1 of the video. This is obviously part 2, so thank you for watching this part as well. Thank you for, as always, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Hitting the little bell icon. We did open something legendary. I opened a Starbucks, and continue to send Steve the thumbs down, like we talked about in the first part of this video. Again, don't know why. I guess you guys are listening to me too well, even though I am clearly joking as far as he knows. I'm joking. All right, see you guys later.